online with Amber the Internet Guy. Stream it today on your favorite podcast platforms. This podcast focuses on entrepreneurs and business owners, helping them become more successful in conducting their business on the web without being stuck with technology, getting a headache, pulling their hairs out, or buying expensive software.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. So in the previous two episodes, we've gone around and explained how to choose the best domain name for your business, where you intend to build your website, and how to choose a hosting plan, especially if you're starting up, and what kind of problems to avoid. I've also gone quickly over the domain name system or the domain name services, DNS, and we need DNS definitely. You don't need to completely master DNS in order to build your first website or any website for that matter. But if later on you want to use emails that are attached to your domain, so it's your email address at yourdomainname.com rather than using Gmail or Hotmail or some free email service, you will need to learn a little bit more about DNS. But for the purpose of building a website, just learning what record you need, which is called the A record, and where to put that. And that's it. Off you go. You can then link your domain name to your hosting and start building your website there. Now, if you want to learn more about DNS and how to master it and how to utilize it for your website, how to use it to migrate your website from one place to another, how to use it for your domain linked emails, I have posted the links to my full DNS course below in the description on episode number 2, the one which we discussed the hosting. So if you go to episode number 2 and look down below in the description box, you will find the important links that you need. So now that we've covered domains and hosting, what's next? I'm pretty sure that you've seen some ads. If you're around YouTube a lot, you would have seen ads about the page builders that are like Wix and Squarespace. And they make it look so easy, right? Just build your website instantly with no coding required. But what if I told you that there's a big gun out there that isn't talked about a lot? And this big gun is powering more than 40% of all the websites on the internet. That's a thing that's about 260 million-ish. I think we have about, more or less, about close to 900 million active websites. And about 260 or more of these 900 million websites are powered by this big gun called WordPress. And yes, call me biased, because WordPress has ultimately changed the way I build websites. So a little bit of history here. When I first learned how to build websites, I was coding websites using HTML and something called CSS or cascading style sheets. And I learned a little bit of JavaScript so I can create some interaction on the web pages that I created. But the whole of the website would be a few HTML pages put together with one home page that we called the index page. And typically that page name must be index.htm or .html. And we have coded websites all along from the moment I learned this in 1998, 1999, all the way until probably 2006, 2007, when something called Joomla, which was one of the first or the early content management systems, made it to the hosting companies that we were using at the time. And you could then install Joomla and have a content management system. Now, to give you an idea what a content management system is and how is it different from the older versions of how we built websites. In the past, when you code a website, you built it all in HTML. So all the elements on the page, text, images, everything that you have on the page is coded into HTML code. And you use the cascading style sheets or the CSS in order to manipulate the look and feel of these items, so that if you want one header, for example, or title to look bold and large and red, you do this using the CSS code. If you want the image, instead of looking like a regular square image, you want it to have like some round corners here and there, and you want to give it like kind of a shadow or something to make it stand out and look better, you'd use CSS, which is also coding. Now, if you're not building this website for yourself and you're building it for a client who's a business owner who doesn't know HTML and CSS and JavaScript, once you hand over the website to them, pretty much the website should remain as it is. Like, they could not make any changes. They can't even change one line of text because they don't know how to put this line of text, where to put it within the HTML code. It was really, really hard. So every time they needed a small change here and there, even if it's just like a couple of words, they needed to contact the same designer or developer that created their website so they can help them in these little updates here and there, which was like pain in the backside, to be honest with you. If I was a business owner back then and every time I need to change a little bit of text, it was really hard. So the content management systems came to keep the code in the background so that the user doesn't see the code and give you like a graphical user interface that mimicked or looked like you're typing into like a Microsoft Word document. And then you would just type your text and make it bold, italic, change the color, use your titles, add your images, do pretty much everything like you would normally do. We used to call it what you see is what you get. So we used to call it WYSIWYG. So you had like a WYSIWYG editor in front of you where you could have created your pages and did everything. And a content management system tool would just write the code in the background. So this way, you kind of had the best of both worlds. The problem with this was at the time, you could not extend the functionality of these content management systems. So you could not add an interactive form, for example. You could not add a form that had logic. So for example, if the user chooses country A, so let's say I'm filling a form and I'm using Canada as the country. So once I select Canada from the drop-down list, when it goes to the state field, it should automatically switch and become province because we don't have states in Canada, we have provinces. So it should then switch to province and give me a choice of provinces to choose my province from. Similarly, if I choose the United States as my address country, it should then, the next drop-down menu should give me states, and then we'll have all the 50 states there, and I can select my state and continue with filling in my details. I choose my city, put my postcode, and so on. So this is called conditional logic, which means the form kind of changes based on the choices that people choose. So every person filling the form would kind of get like a different form, slightly different form, based on what they chose. So with the early Joomla CMS systems, we could not do this. The only way you could achieve this was with JavaScript coding. So you needed to go and code the form outside, then bring it into the system. So extending the functionality was extremely hard. One more thing, they only had 2 or 3 templates. So all the websites, I think over the years, from the first time I saw one, I saw Joomla in maybe 2006, and all the way until maybe 2013-ish, I think I've seen maybe 10 or 15 templates all along. There were companies, like different companies, creating Joomla templates, but overall, the whole idea of changing your template or theme and selecting something different or trying to customize your page to suit your business processes was really hard. So again, it did solve a problem, but it wasn't like the best solution out there at the time, or well, maybe it was the best solution out there at the time until WordPress came along. Now, WordPress is the big gun that I'm telling you about. It's powering more than 40% of all the websites on the internet. Some people love it, some people hate it, but there must be a good reason why 40% of the websites on the internet are running on WordPress. Initially, WordPress started as a blogging tool. So a blog tool is a tool that will allow you to post different posts under different titles. And because it's also a content management system, it's grouping all of these posts in one centralized area for you, which is the WordPress administrator or backend. And you could just select, click create new post, type in, add your images, save, and it's all done for you. But WordPress also came with different things that we had never seen before, which is the plugins. The plugins are like little apps that you can use to add to WordPress, to plug them into WordPress. That's why they're called plugins. It's pretty much like if you have your phone and you want to extend the functionality. So you want to maybe add more storage to your phone. So what you do, you get like a small SD card, storage card, and then it has like a slot in your phone where you plug it in and off you go. Once you plug it in, automatically your phone now has more storage. So the same thing with WordPress. You want to add a form with conditional logic. There is hundreds of plugins for that. You just have to select the one that you want to use. You plug it in and you don't need anything. You don't even need, there's nothing to restart. There's nothing to, there's nothing complicated. There's nothing too technical to it. All what you need to do is to download the plugin. Actually, you don't even need to download it nowadays. You can select it from your back end and then select and install and then click on a button that says activate. And once the plugin is activated, now this functionality is added. You could add pretty much anything to WordPress and anything business related that you can think of. And the best thing that you can ever add to WordPress is e-commerce capabilities, is WooCommerce. So WooCommerce is a great application if you want to sell anything online. And if you were not selling online before and after some time you want to sell online, the easiest thing is to just plug in this functionality and off you go. Now you have e-commerce. You want to switch your theme or your template and you want your website to look a little bit different. You can just get a new theme in, install, activate, and off you go. It's just like how easy to use WordPress. So what makes WordPress inherently different from the platforms like Squarespace, like Wix, like Shopify? Well, number one, these are platforms, meaning these are software companies that have created a platform to enable you to easily build your website there. So naturally, the hosting is there. So you don't buy your own hosting. You're actually renting a space on their platform and you're using their own technology, which is proprietary technology to power your website, which sounds good and it's very easy when you're starting up. The problem is, as you grow and your business grows, sometimes you need to add functionality to your website, to extend your website, to make it do new things now. And because they're locked in platforms with proprietary coding and it's a whole platform, you can't add your own stuff. So there are no plugins. Virtually, there is nothing that you can use unless they have it themselves. So they create their own plugins. They add lots of stuff day in and day out. But what if the thing that you want to do initially doesn't exist there? You're locked in. So it's pretty much like being in an Airbnb. When you go and rent an Airbnb, you're renting a space. You can't start rearranging the furniture for the owner. You can't just go and get your own internet router and internet connectivity on that address. It's like, it's not going to work. Like whatever you have there, if they have internet that is slow, that's it. You're going to have to live with it. If they have Netflix subscription or they don't have Netflix subscription, you're going to have to live with it. But when you go and buy your own house or even rent like a long-term rental, which is pretty much similar to having your own hosting. You pretty much control everything. You can buy your own furniture, you can change anything, you can paint the walls with the color that you want. You can change things to suit your needs. And that's the versatility and the flexibility that only WordPress, in my opinion at least, would provide. Now, the other thing is WordPress is open source. What this means is that the code is not hidden. The code is posted on their own website, on the WordPress.org. Any person on earth can take this code, work with it, add stuff, create stuff, and repost the code. So over time, it keeps improving. The other thing is there are thousands, if not millions, of people in the world who have been using WordPress, much like me, for 10 years or more. So you don't have to stick with one person. So if you choose a web developer or designer to build your website, and after you take your website and you tinkle with it here and there, and then you realize, oh, you know what, I don't have the time to do this. I'd rather stick with servicing my clients and bring somebody else to look after the website and do the periodical maintenance day in and day out. There are millions of WordPress experts around the world who will be ready to help you. So you're not stuck. You're never stuck with WordPress. There's another problem that happens when you use a platform like a SaaS, software as a service platform, like Shopify, Wix, and Squarespace and the likes, is that you can't take your stuff out. Meaning, okay, let's say you've customized your website there and you've spent hours, and believe me, I know, because I worked with these tools before, and I know some of my clients and friends who have worked with these tools, and I have a friend who built a really, really great website that works, and it has e-commerce and it has everything, and she did that on Squarespace, and the website looks great. But when I asked her, how many hours did you spend to build this website? She said more than 200 hours. I don't even count. Like after the 200 hours, I stopped counting how many hours I'm spending. It just took me that long to get things up and running the way I want them to work and the way I want them to look. And now she feels locked, because even if she wants to move, hey Aaron, even if she wants to move out of Squarespace, there's no export function. So if you have your posts and your pages there, and you have maybe somewhere around 50, 60, 70 posts and pages together, there's no export tool. If you move from Squarespace to somewhere else, you're going to end up rebuilding everything again from the beginning, and you just copy paste your text. You have to download your images, upload your images there again, and it's very, very counterproductive. So you got to be aware. It's certainly a good thing to do when you're starting up, if this website will be a static website that will just be there, that you don't need to add like a booking system, for example, calendar, or something else different from what they have, and it will stay as it is, and you just update the text and images here and there, but you don't need to add any functionality. This is fine. Go ahead. That's a good route, especially when you're starting up and you don't need to learn anything else. It's like kind of a very intuitive way of going step by step, building your website using the templates they already have. But if you in the future want your website to grow as your business grows and add functionality and get things to work better and faster and easier, then since they don't have plugins, pretty much WordPress would be your best choice as a framework to build your website on. So with WordPress, being versatile, easy to use, and pretty much offered in every hosting plan that you find with any reputable hosting provider, it's kind of a one-click button install and you're done, right? It even comes with some built-in basic templates that you can use, but you can also buy templates. And overall, as we progress through this series of videos, I would also talk about templates or themes, what they are, how they work, and where you can go, or what do you need to know before you settle on which theme to use. But in general, it's pretty much like you're owning your house. So let's say you found another house in a different area of town, or even a different town or a different city, different province, all what you need to do is pack up and go. With WordPress, it's exactly the same thing. You can export the whole website in a couple of hours and then buy a new hosting somewhere else and then import your WordPress website on the new hosting. And that process could take probably between 2 hours to 4 or 5 hours max, right? And you can even, there are ways to do this with zero downtime. So your website will not be offline while it's moving from one place to another. There are some myths going around about WordPress that are not true. The first one of them is that WordPress is not secure. Well, just like a house, if you have the greatest house with the greatest locks, but you go to bed leaving the windows open, yeah, of course, an intruder can get into your house from the window. You're the one who left the window open. So it's not the problem of the locks or how the house is built. Same thing with WordPress. Like, I see many people keeping the default user of WordPress, the default admin user of WordPress, called administrator, right? Well, if you're going to leave it as administrator and have your password as your name -123, yeah, you get hacked. Don't blame WordPress. You left the window open. The other thing is, because these little applets or apps or plugins, as we discussed earlier, are little pieces or little applications that are created by third parties and they plug into WordPress to extend its functionality. They do need updates over the time. The WordPress framework itself, you get new versions. So now I think we're 6 point something. I started using WordPress when it was, I think, version 2 point something. So every now and then they enhance the framework itself. They make it run faster. They make it run on more secure way. In a more secure way, they make it support better plugins and they get rid of the older plugins that were causing troubles. So every now and then, this framework and the plugins that you have and even the theme that you have need to be updated. So it's a constant thing. It's pretty much like changing the oil on your car. If you don't change the oil, the car still runs for some time until it doesn't. The same thing, if you're not periodically updating WordPress and its plugins and its theme, the one that you have, it's like leaving the windows open. Like, there might be some vulnerabilities that were discovered and then that update patched them and make them no longer vulnerable. But if you don't patch it, and what I'm saying, I don't mean to make it sound difficult or complicated. It's pretty much within WordPress itself. You look, you find the updates, you click, and it updates. But of course, in the course of these mini-series, I'm going to also talk about how to back up your website periodically as well, so that if you're applying some updates and the updates break your website, or two of the plugins are not playing nicely together, how you can bring your website back to life, providing, of course, that it's on WordPress. So, WordPress gets attacked a lot. Yes, if it's powering 260 million websites. It's pretty much like operating systems. When people say, oh, Linux systems do not have viruses or isn't as vulnerable as Windows. Well, the reason is Windows is vulnerable is because it's dominant. So people trying to attack Windows probably think with billions of Windows computers, their chances of success at attacking a system and getting into it is much, much higher than something else that doesn't have billions of users, right? Inherently, also, like, I don't want to get into the debate. If you're a techie and you're listening to me, yes, it does look and feel like Linux, generally speaking, has some better security functions than some of the Windows versions, but it also depends. Again, same thing, is the user and the security. Do you have an antivirus there? Is it updated? Is your username administrator? Is your username your first name? Is your password your birth date? Is your password the name of your pet? All these are things that people do to cause themselves to have problems with technology rather than a problem with the technology itself. So when it comes to building your business website, you have a choice. You can go for a quick and easy seeming option that limits you and puts you at risk, or you can choose the option that gives you complete control and full ownership and the power to grow as big as your business's dream. It's your choice now. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like and share and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of our tech tips here. Thank you very much. And everything that I talk about with links and stuff, you will find it down below in the description box. Thank you and see you in the next one. Bye for now.